The myth of the chiseled gym-sculpted fighter has long dominated combat sports, where rippling muscles and towering physiques are seen as the blueprint for dominance. But in the gritty, unpredictable world of the ring and cage, a different breed of warrior defies the stereotype chubby, unassuming fighters who look more like they rolled out of a diner than a dojo. These so-called cholesterol tanks don't just shatter expectations. They demolish their opponents with a ferocity that belies their softer frames. From Ismaile Lazar's relentless onslaught to Vyacheslav Datsik's dethroning of kings, from Chris Barnett's kung fu flair to Janjan's hobbit-like heroics, and Alexander Lungu's karmic beatdown of Bob Sapp, these heavyweights prove that power doesn't need a six-pack to pack a punch. This is the story of how these unconventional warriors turned the combat sports world upside down, leaving a trail of stunned bodybuilders and broken egos in their wake. In the sweltering heat of a 2013 MMA event, Ismaile Lazar stepped into the cage, a beastly figure whose rounded frame suggested a love for fast food more than fighting. Facing him was Daniel Sam, the African Terminator, a chiseled giant whose muscles gleamed under the arena lights. Sam, with his sculpted physique, was the favorite, a fighter who looked like he could bench press a car. But Lazar didn't care about appearances. From the opening bell, he stormed forward like he'd just downed a McDonald's combo meal, his fists swinging with reckless abandon. Sam tried to counter, landing heavy shots, but Lazar's cholesterol shield seemed to absorb every blow. The crowd roared as Lazar hammered Sam's body and head, his relentless pace overwhelming the bodybuilder's defenses. In the second round, Lazar decided enough was enough. A thunderous right hand sent Sam crashing to the canvas, his eyes glazed, his pride shattered. The referee waved it off as Lazar stood triumphant, a walking rebuke to the gym rat archetype. Sam, once a towering Terminator, was reset to factory settings, left to wonder how a chubby brawler had dismantled him so thoroughly across the ocean. Vyacheslav Datsik, a barrel-chested Russian with a rap sheet as long as his knockout list, faced Kofi King, a fighter who'd obliterated everyone in his path. Datsik, whose gut suggested more time at the buffet than the gym, had already felled legends like Alexander Lungu and Bigfoot Silva. With his chiseled frame and intimidating aura, scoffed at the idea of losing to this red-headed chubster. But when the fight began in 2019, Datsik didn't hesitate. He charged forward, his fists a blur of destruction, landing heavy hooks that rocked King's confidence. The crowd gasped as King, the supposed monarch, crumbled under Datsik's onslaught. A brutal combination in the first round sent King face first. To the mat, his reign ended in under 2 minutes. Datsik raised his arms, his belly jiggling with defiance, proving that in the cage, heart and power trump aesthetics. The King was dead, and Datsik, the unlikely usurper, stood tall. Then there was Chris "Huggy Bear" Barnett, the MMA world's real-life kung fu panda, whose infectious energy and deceptive agility made him a fan favorite. In 2021, Barnett faced Travis Wyeth, a hulking figure whose sheer size struck fear into most opponents. Wyeth, a mountain of muscle, imposed his will early, clinching Barnett and draining his energy with suffocating pressure. But Barnett, with his rotund frame and boundless charisma, wasn't here to play victim. In the second round, he found his moment. A sledgehammer right hand caught Wyeth flush, sending the giant crashing to the canvas. Barnett pounced, unloading a barrage of punches that forced the referee to step in. As Wyeth lay defeated, Barnett celebrated with a belly-shaking dance, his joy as uncontainable as his power. The crowd erupted, charmed by a fighter who turned every victory into a spectacle, proving that heart and hustle could outshine even the most imposing physique. Drazan Janjan, a Croatian fighter who looked more like a hobbit who'd skipped his diet plan than a pro boxer, stepped into the ring against Kevin Walter, a muscular masterpiece who seemed carved from stone. Their 2018 bout was a study in contrasts. Walter's high-voltage strikes screamed power, while Janjan's doughy frame suggested he'd be an easy target. But Janjan, like a chubby Neo from The Matrix, dodged Walter's onslaught with surprising agility. Spotting a gap in Walter's defense, Janjan unleashed a single, devastating punch, a right hand that sent the muscle-bound jock to the canvas like he'd been struck by lightning. Walter lay motionless, his chiseled frame betrayed by a hobbit's might. The crowd stood stunned as Janjan, the unlikeliest of warriors, walked away victorious, proving that in the ring, a single shot from a determined underdog could topple even the most sculpted titan Bob Sapp, a steroid-fueled behemoth known for his dirty tactics and towering arrogance. Met his match in Alexander Lungu, an extra large Romanian whose size matched his heart. In a 2011 kickboxing clash, Sapp strutted out like a villain from a comic book, his massive frame dwarfing the ring. Lungu, a mountain of a man with a belly that spoke of countless feasts, wasted no time. The bell rang, and he charged his fists, hammering Sapp with a ferocity that belied his soft exterior. Sapp, caught off guard, managed to rise after an early knockdown, but it was a fatal mistake. Lungu, with the calm of a predator, landed a crushing blow that sent Sapp sprawling, his ego as broken as his body. The referee stopped the fight as Lungu stood over the fallen giant, a karmic avenger who'd turned Sapp's bravado into a cautionary tale. The crowd cheered, witnessing the fall of a bully at the hands of a chubster whose fists spoke louder than any physique. Finally, Roy Nelson, the MMA veteran whose belly was as legendary as his right hand, faced Dylan Kleckler in 2018, a mountain of muscle who thought his size made him invincible. Kleckler came out swinging, his punches a blur of power, confident he could steamroll the chubby retiree. Nelson, nicknamed Big Country, had dynamite in his fists and a temper to match. Enraged, as if Kleckler had tried to steal his last slice of pizza, Nelson absorbed the early storm and fired back. A massive overhand right, thrown with the fury of a Norse god, caught Kleckler flush, sending him crashing to the canvas. The arena erupted as Nelson, his gut shaking with triumph, sent the protein-loving jock to a metaphorical Valhalla. In just 1 minute and 40 seconds, Nelson reminded the world why he was a legend, proving that a warrior's heart outweighs any amount of muscle. These chubby champions Ismaile Lazar, Vyacheslav Datsik, Chris Barnett, Drazan Janjan, John DeLung, and Roy Nelson rewrote the script of combat sports. They didn't need chiseled abs or bulging biceps to dominate. Their power came from something deeper: raw determination, unshakable heart, and fists that hit like freight trains. Each faced opponents who looked the part of invincible warriors, only to leave them broken, their egos shattered on the canvas. In a world obsessed with appearances, these fighters prove that true strength isn't sculpted in the gym, it's forged in the fire of the ring. Their victories weren't just knockouts, they were a middle finger to stereotypes. A reminder that in combat sports, the biggest heart often delivers the hardest punch. What's your take on these chubby warriors who defied the odds? Hey, who's your favorite underdog from this lineup, and which knockout left you speechless? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button if you love seeing stereotypes shattered, and subscribe for more epic fight stories. Check out our next video on the wildest upsets in combat sports history.